The best 3 ways to test Facebook ads in 2025, their ups and downs, and what I prefer and use for testing. All of that based on over 7 figures in spend for several e-com brands. Method number 1 is the classic ABO testing. Here you're controlling the ad budget on the ad set level. You just go in there and can launch as many tests as you want. When launching, you want to make sure that in one ad set, you have just one ad concept and 3 to 5 split testing variants of that ad concept. Now, when I say split testing variants, that basically means the core concept is one idea. For example, it is the same video, but the split testing variants have 3 different hooks that go into different angles or different customer desires or different avatars. And the same goes for static ads. For example, you can have different headlines or different angles that you're targeting, headline and image-wise, or different images, and so on. And the way you test is very simple. You just want to set up a budget. So after 3 to 5 days, you spend 2 to 3 times of your desired customer acquisition cost. So that after 3 to 5 days, you can conclude, okay, is this actually a winner or a loser? If it spent that amount, if it spent 2 to 3 times of your target CPA and it's profitable, you just keep it and scale it in that ad set. If not, you just turn it off. Very simple and very straightforward, and you can do the scaling right in this campaign. Now, what are the benefits of this? One big advantage of this is that you will get data from every single ad set, from every single idea and hypothesis that you're testing. You also have the control of the budget at the ad set level so that you can pump more money into like high ROAS ads and reduce the budget for low ROAS ads. Now, the disadvantages, first of all, this is kinda wasteful in terms of testing budget in comparison to the other methods that I will show you here in this video. And it's also a lot of manual work and trying to outcompete the algorithm in a way, because the other methods are relying more on the algorithm, and it's not like a sacrifice that, oh, you reduce manual labor but you will get like worse performance. But actually I see that it's even performing better when you trust the algorithm. So this leads me to the second method, the CBO testing. Here you just have everything in one campaign. You have your winning ad set where you have all the winners collected into one ad set, and you have the testing ad sets. You structure the ad sets internally just as in the first method. So you just have split testing variants of the same concept or idea that you want to test. But then the way you test is simply dropping like 3 to 5 ad sets every single week, or if you want to test even more ads, like 2 times or 3 times a week, you drop 3 to 5 ad sets into the CBO and you just see if it starts spending on them. Now, there are different scenarios that can happen from here. Number 1, it spends profitably and enables you to increase your ad spend. Perfect, that's the best case scenario, that's a winner, just keep it. And transfer the winning ad in that ad set into the winner's ad set. If you want a structured guide on how to do that with post ID, I have linked a video below explaining how to do that. Now, the second scenario is it spends a lot but not profitably. If that happens within the first 24 hours, you want to see during the next day if it auto adjusts and Facebook reduces the spend, because usually that happens. But if that doesn't happen and it just absorbs all your ad spend and spends like crazy, return is really low, then you want to kill it as soon as possible. Now, this is not the regular case. This usually never happens, but it can happen sometimes. And for that purpose, you just want to keep an eye on your account every single day. Now, the third scenario, and actually the most common scenario, is that your ad stays there for 3 to 5 days and it doesn't pick up spend at all. Maybe it spends like $10 or $20 and then it just doesn't spend. In that case, the algorithm has determined, based on early engagement and based on intermediate metrics, that this is not as scalable as your current winning ads that are spending, and that it's not even worth spending on it. And when this happens, you can just fully trust the algorithm and turn that ad off in favor of a new test that you can launch into this campaign. Now, the upsides of this method is that it requires almost no manual work. You just have to upload ads and you just have to turn them off, keep them on, or transfer winners into the winning ad set. It allows for more testing volume, / it's quite budget friendly, because if something doesn't really perform, it won't spend much. And your ad budget is focusing on the most scaling ads all the time. So this is what will get you the biggest long-term return, and you don't have to manually kind of try to outsmart the algorithm. Now, the only downside of this that I really find is that you have limited learnings from tests. Because if something is a failed test, then it won't spend much, and well, that's an upside, but at the same time, you don't get the data from it. And you have to kind of guess or tell from experience, okay, this didn't perform probably because of this and that. So this might be a bit more challenging if you are a beginner and not for years already in the space and know exactly okay, what might fail an ad creative and what needs to be improved. But if you're strong at analyzing ads, that little data usually is also enough. Now the third method of testing ads is a hybrid method. Here we basically use the exact same setup as the second method, but the difference is that we set minimum budgets on ad sets. You just want to go into the ad set and set a minimum ad spend of like $5 or $10 per day. That's extremely low, but the purpose of this is just to get minimal data from it and just to give Facebook a signal that, hey, like spend on this definitely a bit. And if it performs, because it's a CBO, it will automatically increase ad spend much more on this ad set, and it will scale this ad set by itself. So the advantages of this is that you will get some little data for sure, and especially also if you're sometimes frustrated with the CBO method. Let's say you don't trust it and you think, okay, actually like I want it to spend at least a bit on my tests because I worked on them and I really don't know what went wrong if they don't spend at all. This is something you can set up and at least, like, let's say spend $10 per day for 3 days if it's like really a loser, and then you can turn it off, and then you have at least some data to be able to draw conclusions about why it didn't spend more. Now the upsides and downsides are of course also combined. Here you will definitely get some minimum data, which is amazing. Of course you might spend a bit more on testing because now you're forcing at least a certain dollar amount on each test, but still less than the ABO. Now each of those methods can work. What do I go for? I usually go for the second method and sometimes for the third method, because generally running ads for a lot of brands on many different ad spend levels with performance like these, I found that trying to outsmart the algorithm and just spending a lot on testing when sometimes it doesn't make sense to spend on it gets performance long term on average down, rather than trusting the algorithm and letting the algorithm go for it. So this is why I recommend the second method. Or if you're a bit skeptical of the algorithm and the CBO spending, you can go for the third method and introduce the minimum budgets, and once you actually see that yes, it judges correctly, you can also take them out of the CBO completely. Now once you do that, all you need to scale is high performing ad creatives, because all you need to do to increase your budget to 2 or 3 times of your current level is a big winner that can withstand that amount of spend without dropping in ROAS or without tanking in customer acquisition cost. And that's exactly what I help with for e-com brands. If you have a 7-figure brand or bigger and want help with that, click the first link in the description and we can discuss how we can do that for you. Keep scaling. Bye.